provide a copy to Mr. Lawrence, and I'll waive a formal reading of the criminal complaint and ask for further scheduling.
And he should have a copy. I believe the bailiffs are handing out copies of the criminal complaints to all the defendants, and the bailiff's given a thumbs up that he's received that. Is the address on the criminal complaint the correct mailing address?
That is correct.
All right. I'll make a finding of probable cause for the charges. Those are all felonies. There's a public safety assessment. It recommends a signature bond. What's the state's position on bail?
Your Honor, the state is requesting $2,500 cash with the condition of not to use any electronic devices. And the reason for the request for cash is, of course, the defendant is facing a mandatory minimum of 3 years on each count if convicted. And the strength of the state's case is very high here. Apparently his laptop was literally playing a video of child pornography when the agents executed the search warrant. We believe that much exposure provides incentive to flee, and some substantial cash is necessary to ensure appearance in court.
Great, thank you. And what's the defense position on bail?
Your Honor, certainly these are allegations. I understand the state's position as to the nature and the strength of their case, but they are yet still allegations. Of course, the bail amount is what is necessary to compel appearance. He is a longstanding resident of Dane County. There's no indication he's ever missed court in the past. We'd ask for a signature bond. As far as conditions, Your Honor, I know given the nature of the charges, we would ask for one minor concession with respect to the use of electronic devices. He is in the real estate industry and he uses MLS and the likes of those websites. I have a list for Your Honor that are related to his employment. We'd ask for the court to respectfully consider exempting those URLs for purposes of him being able to continue his employment. But we would request, Your Honor, for a signature bond.
All right, and the state have any response to the requested modification of the non-monetary condition?
Certainly, it's in everyone's interest that the defendant remain employed. I think that a narrow exception would be appropriate.
All right, and when you say narrow exception, do we want it to be that he not use any electronic devices except to access these particular URLs, which I guess I don't have, or state it more broadly, except for purposes of employment?
I think the exception for purposes of employment would be sufficient.
And
Attorney Crawford?
I wouldn't object to that, Your Honor.
All right. Well, there are certainly serious charges and significant potential penalties. That said, these cases, when they result in a conviction, often result in only the mandatory minimum 3 years in prison. That's nothing to sneeze at, but certainly that's not hundreds of years in prison, which is the exposure here. And it's pretty rare that somebody's getting beyond the mandatory minimum if there is no hands-on offense of actual children, which I don't see any allegations of. Mr. Lawrence, according to the criminal complaint, I think was at his apartment and residing there for the last 10 years. He's got pretty significant ties to the area. He's employed. The public safety assessment recommends a signature bond. It has him at a 1 out of 6 on both new criminal activity and failure to appear scale. That's not surprising because it looks like he has 0 prior criminal history. My experience has been in these cases when somebody has significant ties and limited or no criminal history, no failure to appear history, They tend to show up for these cases, and cash bail is unnecessary to assure appearance in court. So I'll order a signature bond. I will order the defendant not use any electronic devices except for purposes of his employment. Attorney Crawford, what do you want to do about time limits for the preliminary hearing? You're on mute.
Sorry, Your Honor, we'd waive time limits in this with respect to the preliminary hearing.
Okay, we'll get it scheduled for a status conference and we'll be adjourned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.